You know, every time I play any of the Arkham games, I usually play the main story, finish it, and maybe 1 or 2 side missions after that and call it a day. Because at that point, I've already played through the entire story and put 20 or so hours into the game. And to the general player, the side missions don't really add to the main experience at all. Now, Arkham Knight in total has 14 side missions minus the DLC missions, making it the game in the series with the most side missions. And for anyone who's played through most of these side missions, they're super long, and I mean super long. And many of them, you actually have to search for things, which makes them even longer to do. But just because the game makes the side missions long doesn't really make them good, right? So in this video, we're going to be going over every single side mission in Batman Arkham Knight and answering the question, are Arkham Knight side missions worth playing, or are they really just filler content? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep up with the weekly uploads. So let's get into it, shall we? The first side mission we're going to cover is Line of Duty. But if you want to skip to a different side mission in the video, make sure to use the timestamps in the description or the chapter select below the time bar. The Line of Duty is one of the first missions you come across in Arkham Knight when you are told by Cash at the beginning of the game, along with a bunch of other missions we'll get into a bit later. Now, as for the storytelling within the side mission, it's kind of whatever, because as you get through the mission, it's revealed that the Firefighters were actually tracking a mysterious arsonist that was starting building fires across Gotham, which turned out to be Firefly in the end, who we stop in the Gotham on Fire mission. But in the end of the mission, when you finally rescue the chief of the Firefighters, it's revealed that he hired Firefly to start those fires so that his team would keep their jobs, as they would have something to do to keep it. So now that I've explained the context, the story in itself is mid at most. The best thing it has going for it is connecting this to the Firefly side mission we'll get into in a sec. But as for gameplay wise, it's really basic combat and stealth missions. I wouldn't really rate any of them really hard unless you're really new at the game and don't know what's going on. But in my opinion, it's just really repetitive and just seems like filler content because of how many times you're doing the same thing over and over again. And it's honestly more annoying that you have to go out and search for some of them on your own too, which just adds to the filler aspect of it. Overall, it's more of a way to practice your skills in combat and stealth if you want to, but personally, I'm better off not playing an hour or two of Firefire hunting simulator because it just gets boring really fast. But next up, we're led straight into the Firefly mission, who we haven't seen since Arkham Origins, which was the game before Arkham Knight's release. And in that game, he had a really well done boss fight, and honestly, looking back, the feel of the process getting up to that boss fight was really well done as well, as it seemed like he was a really huge threat in that moment because of the bomb on the bridge and all of the other aspects around it. But in this game, he isn't that big of a threat, and his boss fight is just playing Mario Kart in the Batmobile, because all you have to do is keep up with him until his fuel runs out and you can just take him out. And also, you never really lose him if you get too far away. It just keeps you attached to him without really any penalty. I thought you'd at least get a game over screen if you got too far, but that isn't the case at all. In my experience, I've never gotten a game over screen from getting too far away, but maybe I've never let him get far enough for the game over screen to trigger. So let me know in the comments what you guys have experienced in your own playthroughs. But yeah, overall, this was a pretty poor boss fight in my opinion, and definitely feels like filler content just added to create some extra drama for the Firefighters. And up next is the Perfect Crime, which in my opinion is one of the better side missions to appear in Arkham Knight, and honestly one of the better missions to appear in the game in general, and one of the more disturbing ones altogether. And the reason I say this is because in this mission, deceased individuals have been cited to be strung up on various buildings around Gotham City, with opera music being blasted around the scene of the crime. In this mission, you investigate the bodies of the victims in order to identify them, as all the victims have their fingerprints removed and their faces bandaged up, indicating removal of some sort. Throughout the missions, you start connecting that all the victims were murdered outside of Gotham and brought back into the city for an unexplained reason. In the end, it's revealed that the Circus of Strange is connected to all the murders, and its tour route goes through all the locations where each individual was taken from. And this leads to the inevitable connection to Laszlo Valentine, also known as Professor Pig, as we track him all the way to his hideout, where we find him creating his Dollatrons, which in my opinion is one of the most disturbing things in Batman as a whole and in this game in general. A really cool detail that we see when viewing his Dollatrons is that in detective mode, all of his Dollatrons are seen as terrified, as it seems like they know what's happening around them and they don't actually want to fight Batman, but are will to anyways. The Perfect Crime is definitely a mission that fits this game, and is unironically probably the perfect mission for this game, as it initiates Batman's detective side and also allows us to get up close and personal with the bodies of the victims and investigate them as Batman himself. I think unlike the crime scene reconstruction we do in this game, this is a lot more interesting, as it's a new mechanic that hasn't been used before, and you get to learn more and more information as you get through this mission. I also like how they use sound as a factor in this game a lot, as you need to listen for the opera music to actually find the bodies. I think overall, Rocksteady did an amazing job with this mission, and it feels good apprehending Pig in the end as well, as this mission makes you really feel for these victims, as Batman tells Pig when taking him to GCPD that those people are living a fate worse than death, and that's just horrifying to think about. The Riddler is the next side mission on the chopping block, and I really think of him as the ultimate side mission because he's been in every single game since the beginning, and in every game he essentially has the same gimmick: just collect his trophies and you find him. That's it. This game tried to change him a bit by implementing Selina and allowing you to do his challenges in order to free her, but then you learn that you can't actually defeat him unless you collect every trophy in the game, which is just a pain as always. In my opinion, if the Riddler challenges didn't use the Batmobile at every given moment, moment, I would say that the Riddler challenges were really well done because they had the potential to be good, just like in Arkham City with the hostages. But I just think the driving portions and using the Batmobile with every puzzle, especially with all the Batmobile sections you already have to deal with during the course of the regular game anyways, I think the Riddler is definitely gonna go in the filler category just because of his trophies, because they literally add nothing to the game whatsoever and are literally just there as little challenges throughout the game, and then they just expand once you free Selena. So yeah, love me or hate me, that's my take on it, and that's how it's gonna be. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you agree or not. Now the next 4 missions are all gonna go into one big category, which are the militia categories, being On the Road, Occupy Gotham, Campaign for Disarmament, and Armored and Dangerous. Now off the bat, I'm just gonna say this whole militia thing was definitely filler content, as it literally takes you probably 3 or 4 hours to fully clear the entirety of Gotham, and that includes searching for all the militia checkpoints and searching for all the bomb placed around the city. And on top of that, they are really repetitive, and by repetitive I mean they're all the exact same thing, almost like the firefighter mission. Now in its defense, I did actually quite enjoy doing Occupy Gotham, as these were all stealth missions, and stealth is probably my favorite aspect of these games apart from the combat. But coming from a strictly unbiased opinion, Occupy Gotham is probably the best, as these actually get increasingly harder as you get through them with more enemies, and a lot more variations of enemies, such as the cloaked up ones that aren't visible on detective vision. Now I know On the Roads does also have stealth missions, but a lot of the harder ones can just be stopped by the Batmobile if put in the right position. And out of all of them, there's only one that's really difficult, and it's the one with like 5 sentry guns in it. But other than that, it's just repetitive combat over and over again. Armored and Dangerous is probably the most boring, with it being a Fast and the Furious chase scene with the Batmobile. And finally, Campaign for Disarmament is probably the only one worth playing in my opinion, as it's the one where you get to face Deathstroke in the worst boss fight in the entire game, even though I just gave that prize to Firefly a few minutes ago. But even though it's the most worth playing, it's still really boring doing these tank battles over and over and over again until you face Deathstroke in an easier boss fight than the Cloudburst. So overall, this category of militia missions are filler content for sure, with the exception of Occupy Gotham, which yes, it's repetitive, but it's at least the most fun unlike the others. Next up is Man Bat's mission, which is one of the more tragic missions in the game, as Kirk Langstrom turns into the Man Bat, killing his wife in the process, only realizing once he's reverted to human form in the end. This mission as a whole felt more like a mini mission than anything, because you have to catch him like 4 times in total for the mission to be completed, but it does get drawn out as you can only find him based on the sound that he makes. So in my opinion, it honestly isn't that bad of a mission because of how short it is, but objectively speaking, it is filler content. It doesn't add that much to the game like the Professor Pig mission does, for example. Penguin's Gunrunner mission is really fun to play, as it adds the tracking mechanic in the game, as you get to follow a vehicle without the use of the Batmobile for one, and you also get to play as Nightwing, which is always a nice addition. This mission didn't feel like filler content, but only barely though, because this mission did actually come up in the main story with a connection with Scarecrow. But since you only need to do this mission 5 times in comparison to the 100 times you have to deal with the militia, I'll cut it some slack, especially because you get to play as Nightwing and practice your combat if you're bad at it, which is always fun in my opinion. The next 3 are going to be pretty much quickfire because it's literally all repetitive stuff and pretty self-explanatory. Two-Face's side mission is just a stealth mission mixed with regular combat until a certain point it just turns into a regular stealth mission, which sounds like a cool concept and all, except when you have to do the exact same thing countless of times until it starts becoming boring. Also, I'd like to mention that Two-Face always gets a raw deal in these games, as he never has a good boss fight. I don't think in any DC or Batman game has Two-Face ever gotten a good boss fight in the slightest. And yes, I'm counting Lego Batman as well. Two-Face literally just gets a stealth section where he's treated as a regular old thug that gets taken out in one shot. Like at least in Catwoman's mission in Arkham City, you have to take him down at least 4 or 5 times before he gets done. But in this, if you get one silent takedown on him, you're all good. It's just funny at this point. Next up is Land to the Slaughter, where you need to save Jack Ryder from getting himself killed from Deacon Blackfire, who makes a completely random appearance, by the way. Out of all the Batman villains to appear in these Arkham games, Deacon Blackfire was not the first to come to mind, but it's essentially a combat section with a timer and uses the electric gun in order to save Ryder from Blackfire. It's honestly the easiest mission in the entire game, to be honest. And finally, Hush's mission, A Friend in Need, which requires you to save Lucius Fox from Thomas Elliot disguising himself as Bruce Wayne from the Wayne Tower. In my opinion, this isn't one of the most mind-boggling missions in the game, but it definitely is cool, as we get to see Batman unmask himself in front of Elliot before his reveal in the ending of Night, depending when you complete this mission. And this section is designed in a way to make you think you're playing as the real Bruce Wayne, when in reality you're playing as Hush the whole time, which I really liked when playing this mission. And you get to have some one-on-one time with Lucius as well, which is pretty cool. But now we have reached the final side mission in Batman Arkham Knight, which is Azrael's heir to the cowl. But before we get into the final side mission in the game, please take this moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I come out with a video once a week on either Saturday or Sunday, and I release a YouTube short every single day, so you're loaded with content all the time. So if you haven't, subscribe to the channel if you've made it this far. But now with the promo out of the way, let's get to the final mission in Batman Arkham Knight, which is Azrael's, and is one of the more cooler ones, as the concept of this mission is that you're trying to figure out who Azrael really is by interacting with him, as well as training him to potentially take over as the new protector of Gotham Gotham once Batman's gone. A really cool aspect that I like the most about this mission is that the challenge packs that you're put up against when playing as Azrael requires you to get through them without being hit once, which makes them a little more difficult than usual, but not so impossible that it's super hard to get by. The ending of the mission is also totally up to the player as well, because at the end of the mission, Batman finds out the true identity of Azrael, which is Michael Lane, who was a former GCPD officer, let go because of psychological issues, but along with that, also figures out that the Order of St. Dumas is the whole reason why he's portrayed as Azrael in the first place, as they're the ones controlling his mind the entire time, pressuring him into the decisions he most likely wouldn't willingly want to make. But in the end, the player has the choice of either leaving the clock tower and securing a spot as the next heir to the cowl, or succumbing to the voices in his head and killing Batman. If the player chooses to leave, Azrael leaves to search for the Order to make them pay for what they've done to him. But if they choose to kill Batman, Azrael is apprehended as Batman is way too fast and counters the attack before he's even able to strike, leading him to be locked up at GCPD like all the others. This, along with Pig's mission, is one of my favorites, but is annoying because a lot of the times you have to wait until he shows up on the map in order to proceed or search for him, which again is annoying. But overall, I don't see this mission as filler content whatsoever, as there is character development that does happen throughout this mission and gives the player the choice of what the end result will be, even though the combat sections are just challenge packs at the end of the day. For what it lacked in real combat, it made up for the story, which is something I admire more than gameplay always. Now we've come to the conclusion of this video, and time for the answer to the question you've all been waiting to be answered. Are Arkham Knight side missions worth playing, or are they just filler content? And my answer is no. Most of the Arkham Knight side missions are not worth playing at all the whole way through if you're in it for the fun of it. The only reason you'd actually want to willingly play through all of them is if you want to 100% complete the game. But if you don't care about that, there's really no reason playing them all the full way through and completing them. Of course, you can play them for fun if you want to just kill time, but playing them all the way through, in my opinion, will just be really boring and a waste of time if you're not looking into 100% of the game. Now, the ones that are worth playing are some of the shorter ones like Penguin's Caches, Azrael, and Pig. Even though that isn't one of the shortest ones, it's still very much worth playing for the story element and the experience in general, because as a whole, it's really disturbing and very much worth playing. But I think other than that, the side missions as a whole in Arkham Knight, in my opinion, are just filler content and really not worth playing at all unless you're a completionist, and that's all I have to say about that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But with that, we reached the end of the video. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you guys think about this topic, and let me know what you guys' favorite side mission is in Arkham Knight, as I think this topic in general is a very touchy one, as the Arkham games all have amazing side missions, but I think Arkham Knight just went above and beyond trying to make them feel like filler in this game, and for no reason whatsoever, when they could have just made them long enough so that the player enjoys the experience instead of playing a repeat of the same mission 20 times in a row. Let me know in the comments of any other topics I should cover next, and thank you all for 10,000 subscribers. It means the world to me, and I appreciate you all for sticking with me and getting the channel to where it is now. I really love all of you for watching my content. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video next week. Peace!